Joey always tells me put it smack dab in the middle of the screen so that it'll be the first thing I see whenever I get ready to start, and it'll remind myself to click it.
Okay, I'm gonna press record. So as a reminder, this is recorded for you. So if there's anyone from your team who's missing out on today's training, or you want to jump back in and review some of the materials from today, it will be up on the Resource Center and available for you within a couple days, so you're able to access some more of that information. But I just want to first off say thank you guys for joining today. We are really excited to have you all here. It looks like we have over 200 participants in today's training, so very exciting as we kind of move forward and our new consumer engagement opportunities launch. Today, our main goal is that we will be exposing you to all of MDA's consumer engagement programs in the MDA portfolio. We have an hour-long training that's going to include an overview on features, case studies, examples, and best practices to help us move forward in expanding your consumer engagement income. So before we get started, I want to introduce you to your presenters from today. All of these hold a valuable role on our strategy team. We have Jack Pippin, who's our divisional director out of 99. We have Justin Foz, who's fundraising coordinator in the Missouri office. And then we have Stephanie Hartgrove, who is also joining us from an area executive director in West Texas. So thank you guys for being a crucial part to our training today, and they're going to be kind of leading you through everything consumer engagement. So before we get started, a little bit of a quiz for you. So you probably have seen a lot of the new materials that have been out there about consumer engagement. So before we dive into talking a little bit more about the definition of some of these campaigns, I wanted to kind of start at the basics. So how did we define a consumer engagement program? Well, consumer engagement, really what that means are there campaigns that ask consumers to donate to a cause upon checkout. That can be either online or in-store. So what are some of the ways consumers may be asked to donate in consumer engagement campaigns? I'm sure that you all know one out there that MDA is our Pros app. But what are some of the other ways that we can ask those customers to donate? So here is just a little bit of an array of some of the ones that we're going to be diving a little bit deeper into today. We have our Pinup, our Roundup program, our Pin Pad, our percentage of sales, and our online ask. So we're going to be talking a little bit more in depthly about these 5 programs under the consumer engagement umbrella. So a little kind of fun fact for you. How much was raised in 2014 by $1 million plus campaigns according to the Consumer Engagement Latest Industry Report? So just to highlight, this is $1 million plus campaigns. So anything under $1 million wouldn't be calculated into this total. 388 million. That's a big chunk of change, and we do know that we hold a large portion of that chunk of change, but we're ready to even expand on that and make it bigger. But I wanted to just show you to show the impact of really what these consumer engagement campaigns can bring in. So another little fun fact for you, according to Good Scout Group's Change at Checkout report, what percentage of people are donating at the register? Well, that's 71%. So why is this important? Well, I wanted to show this slide just because it shows the importance of consumer engagement campaigns. And what it tells us is that these are not ancient history. This is still a huge, huge part of charitable giving. If 71% of people continue to donate and support these causes, we know that there's still an emphasis out there for us to grab onto some of these consumer engagement programs. So next we're going to get into casting a wider net. So before I toss it to Jack, who's going to go into the different campaign options that are available, I wanted to remind you, although we are casting a wider net, that we want to make sure that we reiterate that pinups are still really our main focus. They're our bread and butter of consumer engagement programs. And we should be really proud of what we do at MDA with our pinup program. So I wanted to just kind of premise that before we go into this. Jack's going to be focusing on all the different opportunities under the consumer engagement umbrella, but he's going to be focusing a little bit more on the pinup since we know we hold a large portion of our income within that particular campaign. So Jack, I'm going to toss it over to you.
All right, thanks, Erin. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. So as Erin mentioned, pinups have been really MDA's flagship consumer engagement program and will continue to be moving forward. But as you look at the slide here at the pros of this type of program, it's really easy to see why we've had a track record of success over the last few decades. You know, we've incorporated year-round campaigns allowing businesses to run the program at any point in the year and even for different lengths of time. So we're starting to see programs that are anywhere from 2 weeks even up to you know, the more standard 6 to 8 week program that we've run. We're able to customize the resources for businesses, especially for our larger accounts. The pinups that we provide have a scannable barcode, which makes the point of sale process just really quick and easy. And there's also the take-home option for accounts who prefer not to display the paper in their stores. And I think this is a bit of a departure from how we've typically approached selling this program, but I definitely think it's worth considering, especially with some of our new accounts who maybe aren't as interested in the paper display component. And then we can also attach coupons to add value, which ultimately increases sales. And I think, you know, some markets have really gotten creative with the types of couponing that they're adding on. And then lastly, you know, and this is pretty obvious, but our Shamrocks in particular just have such strong brand awareness across the country because of the program's rich history. But then I think we also know that there are some cons to the pinup program, and that includes the fact that sales are really dependent upon the cashiers selling them, which means that there needs to be a training component of some point. And you know, sometimes this is MDA stepping in to help with it, but oftentimes we don't have a lot of control over what that training looks like. And there are also occasionally just restrictions in stores regarding if or how pinups can be displayed. And then from an environmental standpoint, there's certainly an increased carbon footprint because of the paper resources that go into it. And lastly, the collateral costs, although you know, they're certainly relatively small compared to a lot of our other fundraising programs, they certainly do exist, and they factor into this type of consumer engagement program other than some of the other ones we'll be talking about here. All right, Erin, can you go next slide? So here are just a couple case studies that illustrate how pinups really continue to be a driving force in the nonprofit consumer engagement arena. MDA raised $26 million in Shamrocks and other pinups in 2014. The same year, Walmart and Sam's Club ran their Put Their Money Where the Miracles Are program for Children's Miracle Network, which raised $40 million. And then lastly, our own Wendy's MDA Summer Camp pinup program increased from 214 to 384 locations this year, which resulted in over a $250,000 in new revenue for MDA. So clearly there's really still substantial income being raised through pinup sales, and there's still just a ton of opportunity for us to grow this area of our business. And I just wanted to reiterate how Erin segued into this portion, which is, you know, we're going to start talking about a few of the other options, but we really want to continue to put emphasis behind this area of consumer engagement because we know there are just enormous opportunities here, and we certainly haven't exhausted them in any market. Next slide, please. So here's another interesting fact to consider. When asked if consumers prefer to be prompted to donate by a pin pad or an actual cashier, I was pretty surprised to see the actual statistic, which is 62% said that they prefer that the cashier ask them. And I think this really demonstrates that despite some of the challenges that we face with training employees on how to make the ask, it's actually still the preferred method by customers. And it proves that we should still really continue to keep pinups at the forefront of our consumer engagement strategies. But moving on to alternative or really add-on revenue streams in the consumer engagement world, let's switch gears and we'll look at the option of a pin pad donation request. So with this type of program, customers are typically asked to make a donation at checkout through an automated pin pad ask. And the advantages here are that every customer is asked to donate. There's no reliance upon cashiers, so we don't have to worry as much about the training component. And certainly there's less paper waste. But one obvious disadvantage is that we often lose that personal touch of having the cashier ask, which, as shown in the previous slide, is actually still the preferred method of asking. And then another challenge of pursuing PinPad programs is just limitations within the technology. And I know Erin and Sabrina have fielded a lot of questions about this over the last few months. And we know that updating POS systems to incorporate a PinPad donation request can definitely be costly. But if the technology is already in place, it can actually be relatively easy to implement this type of program. Typically, it's just a matter of finding the right time to be incorporated into their system upgrades. So this is really all the more reason for us just to be asking these questions with both new and existing accounts. Do they have the technology to support this type of program? If so, when would be a good time for us to roll it out? Because we feel like we're leaving money on the table right now, since we're probably not asking this question as often as we could. And ultimately, we don't want to move away from the cashier to customer ask entirely, but PinPad programs can be just alternatives for businesses who aren't interested in the paper product. We never want to walk out of a meeting without at least presenting this opportunity. But they can also be great add-ons for accounts that are interested in generating more income for their charitable partners, who are hopefully MDA. So we're going to take a look at a few examples here. So here we see that St. Jude saw an enormous increase from 10 million to 17.5 million starting in 2012 when they introduced $1, $5, and $10 PinPad options at Kmart checkout lines across the country. And then GameStop actually rolled out a PinPad campaign to benefit Make-A-Wish, which increased their donations from 300,000 to 1.2 million. And we actually know in this example that GameStop's IT team donated their time to build in the PinPad Ask. And I think that's a really great example of how we should be leaning on the experts within their companies to help make the necessary changes to their POS systems. And then lastly, MDA does have some experience here, demonstrated by Safeway's 2013 PinPad Ask, which actually raised over $5 million for our organization. So again, these are just examples that prove that the PinPad programs are really important revenue-generating platforms in the current charitable consumer engagement market. Next, we have the option of rounding up the change, which I'm sure many of you have seen before. Here, consumers are asked at checkout if they'd like to round up their purchase to the nearest dollar increment, with the overage of that going to MDA. So for example, if a consumer agrees to round up a $12.47 purchase, 53 cents of that goes to MDA and the consumer will pay an even $13. And the advantages of this are that they can actually coincide with a pinup program. So in some cases, we've seen that there can be two different asks at checkout, which is great because it's kind of hitting on two different angles there. But also, it typically involves a personal ask because it's sometimes prompted by a PinPad, but more often asked by the cashier. And also, it just plays off the tendency of customers not necessarily wanting to carry around loose change with them. And then the cons are that the donation is less than $1, although I certainly am curious, and I think we hopefully will have more evidence of this, that participation may be higher to offset the decrease in the actual donation amount. So we might see that the donation may average because of a higher participation rate. And then the same POS system update challenges that we talked about with the PinPad programs certainly exist here. And we also occasionally lose the option of a visual paper pinup if they are only running that one roundup program. But all of that being said, many nonprofits are raising substantial income through roundup programs. And on the next slide, we're going to look at a couple examples. So here you'll see that Rite Aid, GoDaddy, and JCPenney are just a few companies that are generating really tons of revenue for their charitable partners through these types of roundup programs. Rite Aid raised almost $5 million last year through this type of ask. GoDaddy's raised over $12 million. And at the bottom of the slide, you'll see an image from the JCPenney Cares Foundation, which has raised several $million for the USO. And really, there's just no reason why MDA couldn't be up on this slide soon with examples of our own substantial roundup campaigns. All right, moving along. So another option to consider is the online ask. And this is typically a donation prompt at the point of checkout for online purchases. And what's great about this option is that it also can be run in tandem with an in-store ask like pinups. So it's really just a way to take some of our existing and hopefully new partnerships to new levels. It also introduces us to new lines of customers that maybe we didn't have access to before that. The retailers frequently add on a coupon or additional benefits for the customers. So, you know, an example that I've seen is free shipping if a donation is chosen by the customer. And I think we can get really creative there with what those types of benefits are. And then lastly, you know, we can have more just long-term exposure opportunities if we are in the online sector there. And then the challenges that we face are just determining the IT updates that are needed to incorporate the donation request. But those are probably those probably aren't big challenges as long as we're just having the conversations with the right people within the company. And then also, there's not necessarily a personal ask being made here unless there is a pinup program running in conjunction with it. So we'll take a look at a few examples on the next slide. This is an example of a donation prompt at checkout. This is through overstock.com, which gives customers the option to actually choose their charity and then the dollar amount that they want to give. And I just found that this was a really user-friendly web page. You know, I've seen a few of these in my own shopping experiences, and I thought that, you know, the ask is really hard to miss, and it's pretty easy to navigate. So, you know, there's certainly lots of good examples out there to pull from. And then on the next slide, you'll see a screenshot for the City of Hope donation request. This is actually something that doesn't happen at checkout, but pops up in the Apple Store, and it gives you the option to have several different giving levels here as well, but strictly for City of Hope. And again, you know, very clear call to action, multiple giving options. I think we can certainly go into some of our meetings, even presenting examples that might show what sort of options there are out there. And I think hopefully this just demonstrates a few of the ways that we can really get creative as we begin to partner with different retail businesses who do have an online presence. And I think we really want to lean on them for the IT support, but we can help deliver on the creativity and help them come up with new ideas that tie into MDA's mission. And I would also say, you know, as you're thinking about this, consider the partners that we already have who do have an online presence, and consider if this is something that we can start asking now, because we're certainly entering the time of the year where we should be recommitting those accounts for 2016. And then lastly, just a few more revenue enhancers to consider include percent of sales and bounce back promotions. And I think some of the couponing on our Shamrocks and other print-up programs currently already hit on this idea, but I also think we could be doing a lot more. And bounce back coupons really help enhance customer loyalty. They drive return visits by offering a coupon for future purchases through a donation to MDA. And for larger accounts, we can add the coupon to the back of a pinup or just as a standalone discount. And this really just creates opportunities to engage customers in a new way, but also in a lot of cases we can engage the retailer's vendors. And in fact, I know we have some examples across the country currently where the vendors are actually sponsoring these types of promotions through typically either just cash, product, or advertising donations. And I'd say that these types of promotions are also really great because the opportunities are endless, and we can play to the needs of the retailer, and we can work with them to help move product that's a priority for them. I think one of the only disadvantages is that in cases where the retailer is not willing to donate the percent back themselves, then we may need an agreement from the vendors to help make this happen. But I would certainly recommend connecting with your divisional and your MDA consumer engagement teams, just if you have additional questions or if you're looking for other examples in this area, because I know we do have some examples out there, and I think that would be a good place to turn. So let's take a look at a few examples from other organizations. On this slide, there's just a few different examples of bounce back and percent of sales programs. I'm not going to read through all of the details. We'll just leave it up here for a minute, but I think it really demonstrates the strong marketing and visuals that can support this type of program. There are a lot of examples to pull from, and I think we can work with the retail partners to come up with a really attractive program that ties into both theirs and our branding guidelines. And again, you see a few examples of them on the screen here. And then on this next slide, you'll actually see a couple more examples of companies that have jumped onto the bounce back idea. Wendy's provides a special key tag when customers donate $1, which they can then use for a free Frosty during a future visit. And then Ace Hardware has their own version of this as well, using 5-gallon buckets. And you can buy a bucket for $5 and return with a bucket on another visit and get 20% off anything that fits in it. And I think they have a pinup component to decorate the store at the same time. So they've gotten really creative and have found a way to find a program that really sets itself apart from maybe other programs in the community. I do think we want to be a little careful with that, with just the types of resources that we're committing to these types of campaigns. But I think in many instances, it's actually the companies they'll provide the hard materials like the 5-gallon buckets or the key tags. And I certainly don't think it's inappropriate to be asking them for that type of support, knowing that it's going to be driving customers back into their stores at a later date. And really, all of these ideas are just meant to show how we can be thinking more creatively about our consumer engagement programs, just building upon really an already strong pinup campaign that we have across the country, but with some additional options or maybe alternatives for the companies that aren't interested in the paper display. So I think that's going to wrap it up for my portion, and I'm going to toss it over to Justin, who's going to walk you through some different tips and ideas about making the sale.
Thank you, Jack. Aaron, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Justin.
Perfect. All right, we are ready to go. Well, now that Jack has gone over some of our key programs and some great successful stories and how those are implemented across the nation, Stephanie and I are here to talk to you about how we make the sale and how we go about some of our best practices, whether it's with new or recommit sponsors. So first, we start with taking the fear out of fundraising. There's nothing we should really be fearful about. We're all employed by the MDA, and we're best at selling our mission and the MDA's mission, and that is providing resources for our families and giving them better lives. So whether it's with a new potential recommit sponsor or a new sponsor or a recommit sponsor, we can't be afraid of approaching somebody with one of these, whether it's a pinup, our bread and butter, or a pin pad program. Maybe even if they've been working with somebody or they have worked with another nonprofit in the past, businesses are constantly looking for new ways to be involved in their communities, and always reevaluating who they want to work with. Maybe it's somebody new, a partnership next year. So we can't be afraid to keep our foot in the door. We always have an opportunity. So how do we do that? Well, we keep it simple, and we start, like I said, by selling them on our mission. That's what we're best at. And then next, tell them about some of the great opportunities. Some of the opportunities that Jack went over are great, whether it's a pin pad, our bread and butter is our pin up, or a percentage bounce back. Next, define our impact. What's the trickle-down effect with partnering with the MDA? And maybe that's employee incentive, or that's something what's in it for them. That's kind of on the next step. So what's in it for them? And then show them that the MDA has skin in the game. We've been doing this for so long, and not only have we been doing it for a long time, we really know how to do it, and we're great at it. And then next is create a shared vision of success. So what kind of partnership can you paint for them, and what it means to partner up with the MDA? So selling them on our mission, that's what we start with. And when you're doing this, you want to be inspirational and credible. Give them something tangible and have that goosebump moment with them. Give them something, say something to them that really makes the hair on their arms stick up. Do your homework. If you're going to sell them on how we improve the lives of our family, you want to make them understand, if they're going to partner up with the MDA, how does it fit in with their mission as well. And then next, tell them about the opportunities. Jack went over some great examples and some great case studies. And we've got wonderful opportunities at the MDA, whether it's with our bread and butter pin-up program or it's our pin pad. Tell them about the opportunities beforehand. Know what their history is. If they've partnered with a nonprofit in the past, or if they're already doing a pin-up program for us, if it's a recommit, maybe they would want to do something in our pin-up. Or if they're already doing a pin-up, if they could add a pin pad program, just something, we offer endless opportunities on how people can partner up with them. So just do your homework and know, before you're going into your meetings, what you can offer for this particular sponsor. Next slide, please. Oh, and then define our impact. So it's not just about our mission. Once you get them on our mission, tell them about the trickle-down effect, what it means when they partner up with the MDA. What happens next? Well, it builds them a strong team. They're going to have more engaged, happier employees. It's definitely going to increase their sales. and maybe they could even highlight a promotional or a feature in their stores. And then just something with their consumer engagement and public attention. Just think about Lowe's for a great example. If you ask any customer that goes into a Lowe's in Shamrock season, they're excited to walk into a Lowe's. They see Shamrocks up and down on the walls, great designs. They see customers engaging with employees, wondering, hey, what are these green things on the walls? Well, that's our Shamrock. That's that's our partnership with the MDA. So it offers them a great opportunity to be involved in their public as well. So, and at this point, I'm going to toss it on over to Stephanie to talk about what's in it for the sponsor. Stephanie, you there?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
I can.
All right, thank you. So like Justin mentioned, we're keeping it simple. So we sell them on the mission, share with them the opportunities that are available, define our impact, and let our sponsors know what's in it for them. There's so much for the sponsor, whether current or new, to benefit from through partnering with MDA on one or more of our consumer engagement programs. And you'll see that we've highlighted some really important things for us to share with them through this process. We want the sponsor to know that these programs will allow them to increase their community involvement and enhance community presence. They'll be able to reach key audiences more effectively by partnering with a deeply respected organization that has a strong nationwide presence, such as MDA. Our sponsors will be able to differentiate themselves and their products in the marketplace through unique cause marketing collaborations that will allow them to increase their ROI while making an impact in the communities where they do business. If you think about if there's ever been a time that you've changed where you shopped or where you got gas because that particular organization was connected to a cause, there's a good chance that many others out there are going to do the same thing. These programs are going to allow our sponsors to enhance their consumer relationships. They will gain priceless exposure and brand affinity by reminding their customers about the difference they're making in their community and by providing them with a memorable in-store and out-of-store experience. And our passionate followers and key relationships are going to allow those sponsors to reach new and dedicated customers. If we think about how many families we serve or how many followers we have with our MDA Facebook and Twitter pages, every time we're able to acknowledge that sponsor or give a shout out, talk about our programs, we're exposing them to a whole new set of individuals who may not otherwise be shopping in their stores, but now that they're connected to our cause or to our mission, that's exactly where they're headed. Last but not least, a great benefit to our sponsors is engaged and inspired employees. Our programs and initiatives have demonstrated they can enhance loyalty and improve teamwork among our partners' employees. But not only do our sponsors want to know what's in it for them, they want to know that we have skin in the game. MDA, we're not amateurs when it comes to consumer engagement programs. We've been around a while. We have some very successful partnerships and programs already in place. And as you can see, this year alone, more than 31,000 retail locations across America will participate in a consumer engagement program with MDA. Of the top 10 fast food chains, 8 have participated in an MDA retail fundraising program, including Burger King, Dunkin' Donuts, and Wendy's. And of the top 5 convenience store chains in America, 3 participate in an MDA retail fundraising program, including 7-Eleven and Circle K. And of the top 10 grocery store chains in America, 50% have participated in an MDA retail fundraising program, including Kroger, Safeway, and Albertsons. And teaming up with MDA provides a meaningful value exchange. So not only will the partnership improve the lives of their employees and help make a meaningful impact in hometowns across America, but it's also going to enhance their company's community involvement strategies, improve employee engagement and morale, and build customer loyalty and brand relevance. All right. So lastly, we really need to make sure that we create a shared vision of success with our sponsors, whether they're current, new, potential. Looking to the future, are we on the same page? What is that going to look like? We need to court our sponsors, get to know their company. Who doesn't like a little bit of romance? Our sponsors need and they want to know what the continued success of this partnership is. What does the impact and connection with our community look like? What will success look like? Like many relationships, we have to continue to woo our sponsors to keep that spark alive, to make sure we continue to share that same vision and stay on that track to success. Now, all of these great opportunities that we've shared don't just apply to our new sponsors.
You know, with everything great that we've got going on, the 31,000 retail locations, the best of the best already behind our cause, we need to improve on this good thing. How do we do that? How do we continue to make good better and better best? One thing we know is that people are competitive. They want to beat their best. They want to continue to gain recognition for doing so. I'm sure we've all seen those programs, leaders, employees who year after year continue to outdo themselves, continue to just shoot for the stars with our programs, and never cease to surprise us in doing so. But how can we help them to continue to raise more money than last year? With these increased opportunities and exposure to engage our customers and add-on programs that don't just limit the sponsor to raising funds at the registers, we should really be able to help grow these partnerships and take them to the next level. So remember, we're keeping it simple. In order to stay up to date and relevant, we've made a name change from mobiles to pinups to reflect the industry language. We're casting a wider net. It's not just a pinup ask anymore, but rather a push for consumer engagement campaigns. How else can we get the consumer involved? There are going to be lots of tools and resources available to expand this program. The materials will highlight all of the consumer engagement options for your sponsors, so nothing gets overlooked, nothing gets missed when we get that meeting. We already have a lot of fantastic sponsors with a lot of proven success with the pinup program. Some have partnered with us for many, many years now, but we're able to offer them these additional opportunities going forward to continue to grow that relationship. We've shared some different ways to take the fear out of fundraising for our sponsors and for us. In order to make that sale, we just need to keep it simple. Sell our mission, tell them about the opportunities, and let them know what's in it for them.
All right. Well, thank you, Stephanie, and thank you, Jack, and thank you, Justin, for covering some of the consumer engagement points. We are now going to open it up for some questions, and I had a few come in during the presentation that I'll just take a moment here to answer. So the first question I had was, when will the updated sales materials and resources be available for the new consumer engagement campaign? Great question. We are currently working on getting all of those completed, and they will be launched and available to the field before the first blitz on September 1st, if not sooner. So there's some amazing sales materials out there that are going to be available for you with talking about these different add-on options for consumer engagement. And as soon as they're updated, they'll be on our resource center, and we'll be sharing all of that with you. And then I had another question that came in was, can we combine two campaigns, such as a pinup and roundup, into one campaign? Absolutely. You know, we have 3 current campaigns at MDA right now under the consumer engagement umbrella, being our Shamrock, our summer camp, and our Be Their Strength. And those are not just solely pinups anymore. We are still going to be branding around those 3 consumer campaigns, and we will have supportive material for multi-ask campaigns available to you. The idea behind additional programs is to increase revenue streams and give the retailers some additional opportunities to grow their funds. Hopefully that answers your question in regards to that. And then I did have another question here, and it's referring to pinups. So they said we mentioned a takeaway option in regards to the pinups when we were discussing how and what does that look like. So just to kind of expand a little bit on the takeaway option, I know in the past we've gotten kind of caught up with the challenge of retailers saying, well, we're not able to hang a pinup in our store due to visual restrictions. Well, we wanted to kind of educate you a little bit more on, you know, that, yes, that can be a challenge, but it also can be still an opportunity for the retailer to participate in a pinup program. Instead, we would more use that pinup as a take-home mission piece. So it's an opportunity for a retailer to attach it to a receipt. They can take it home with them, etc. And I know that from some of my conversations with MBA staff who joined us from other nonprofits before coming to MBA, that this was a big part of their pinup revenue as well. So an example that was given to me was Anthropologie, which we all know is a very high-end retail fashion store, was unable to hang pinups just because of the visual restrictions that they had on them, but they did a fantastic job in still promoting and selling the pinups and using those as a take-home option. So that's also something to consider when you are going into these meetings. Sabrina, was there any other questions that you saw come through?
I saw a question about sponsors that we are pursuing nationally, if it was okay to pursue things locally. And of course, feel free, the sky's the limit. There's a lot of opportunity out there. If you have any questions, of course, reach out to the retail partnership team. But at this point, pursue locally as often as possible. Anyone else has any questions, feel free to type them into the chat or into the Q&A, and we will answer your questions.
I see one here, and it's more touching again on what technology does the company need to implement a PinPad program or an online donation program. So that's a great question. So here's what we know about technology. There is tons of different point-of-sale systems out there, and everyone does it a little bit differently, and the same goes for online. So there's different coding, different technology that goes behind kind of building either an in-store ask or a particular website platform. And so those are the conversations that we need to have with our sponsors. So if they've done a particular roundup or a PinPad program in the past, chances are they still have that technology there to implement a program for MDA, but there is going to be a lot of times where they have not upgraded their systems to be able to have those type of asks available with their point-of-sale system. So what we do know is that in most cases, they're able to add on that component, but it does, one, it usually costs them to do that if they're not due for a system upgrade, or if they're getting close to having a point-of-sale upgrade, you know, that's when it's really valuable that we type of ask those questions, because if they currently don't have that technology, they can look into updating it when they have a new system upgrade. So Jack had talked a little bit about GameStop and how that they had worked with Make-A-Wish, and when Make-A-Wish had approached GameStop for the particular PinPad ask, they did not have the technology behind it. But what GameStop decided they were going to do is that they would pay for that technology upgrade and make all the changes necessarily to make sure that was available within their retail locations. So hopefully that answers your question on that. But if you do have any other questions on that, please feel free to reach out to either Sabrina and I, and we'd be happy to kind of guide you a little bit more in-depthly into some of those processes.
Erin, another question came available, and it says, is the Amazon Smile program something that we promote as a consumer engagement team? And when making a purchase last week, they saw that they had an opportunity to choose a charity to support, and they chose MDA. And do we promote this among nationally with our families, sponsors, et cetera?
Great question, and yes, we do. So that is something that internally our retail team works on. I know that we've sent out some communications via the MVA e-news to remind staff that if they are Amazon purchasers, to make sure that they're adding on MVA as a charity of choice. We do also have our PR team that works on getting that messaging out to our families and our donor bases. And just within the last month, I was actually working with one of the interns at the national office who is building some strategies around getting the information out about the Amazon Smile app. So currently we do and are receiving income from Amazon Smile. So fantastic question. All right, well, I don't see anything else coming through the chat box. So we will give you back 15 minutes of your day to just soak in all this great information. And then just a reminder, you will be seeing the collateral supporting materials rolling out shortly. So we are very excited that we had, over 245 people join the call today to learn more about some of our consumer engagement campaigns as we move forward. I think there's a lot of exciting information here. So please feel free to continue to ask questions. If you have team members that weren't available to be on today's training, guide them to the Resource Center. Once it's updated, we'll send out a link, and you can always connect with your divisional consumer engagement leads as well for any other further questions that you may have.
We also look forward to seeing you guys and talking with you guys on Monday for our Consumer Engagement Program launch. It's going to be our national launch. It's going to be a great day, and we're looking forward to engaging with you guys and just sharing about what 2016 is going to look like and the exciting things we have rolling out and headed your way. So we look forward to talking to you then.